Hi everyone, this is Jake and Nadia, Woman Carrying Man channel. This time we're actually doing Lord of the Rings, the show, The Rings of Power. We watched this last night when it came out.
I went in with very low expectations. I think a lot of people did. Some of you know I wasn't a big fan of the Wheel of Time show, which was also produced by Amazon. Wasn't impressed by the trailers for this show. I knew that they were putting a ton of money into it. I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings, but I'm not a mega fan, I'm not all invested in the lore and the books, I really loved it, actually. I'm honestly, it's hard because I went in really expecting something of a lower quality, writing wise, but I have to say, it felt like very different from most fantasy adaptations on TV. Wheel of Time, for example, what I was lacking from the Wheel of Time was the sense of weight, of feeling like a lived-in world and feeling like it was taking its time to get to earned moments. I'm feeling that from this show because it feels like, it's slow. People are talking about how it's slow build, how things are just kind of being put together. There's lots of characters, but I feel excited to see what happens. We don't have all this follow through yet because it's just the first 2 episodes, but I feel that they're building the emotional connections. They're building the characters. It takes time. And that's the point. I mean, it's TV. That's just how it's going to go.
When I first started watching it, I had low expectations just like you. I just feel like it's sometimes hit and miss with these kind of shows that already have such a big fan base. When TV shows or even movies try to rewrite that, it can be very fragile. And it has to be done in a very perfect way, I feel like. And nothing can be done in a perfect way. I really liked it as well, actually. I was really surprised at how good it was. There are some criticisms that I have that I'll get into in the spoiler sections. This time before the Lord of the Rings movies, books era wasn't perfect. It wasn't like it was untainted. And I actually kind of like that because it creates conflict. Nothing is so perfect. And it creates humanization for later characters. I really love the introduction of who we get to know in the movies, who we get to know in the books. I really love woman empowerment. I really love how diverse it was.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know this, but, apparently Amazon acquired the rights to The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but weren't able to get the Silmarillion, which is the main text for Tolkien's lore and world building and the textbook for Lord of the Rings, They weren't able to buy that because it's not for sale. So they are basically building this on the Second Age, which is basically mentioned in the appendices for Lord of the Rings. Basically, they're remixing and moving stuff around in the Tolkien canon. I can understand why the Tolkien purists are going to be upset with this show no matter what. I get that. I get if you're close to this material, it hurts, to have it be different. However, I'm from the camp, I believe that it has to stand on its own. I think anything you make has to stand on its own. An adaptation is its own thing, that you cannot simply criticize it for being different from the adaptation material. I mean, I tried to do this with the Wheel of Time review, just trying to focus on what worked fundamentally as a show. I think the Wheel of Time failed fundamentally as a show. I don't think it was a good adaptation either, but that's separate, And I think that you can look at this as maybe not a great adaptation of the material, but I do think that so far it's a good show. I haven't encountered another fantasy show like this that brings up that feeling of wonder and beauty and the epic scale of it. When I started watching it, I was like, this feels like it's just an extension of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. It's very similar in style. It doesn't feel like it's half-assing the tone. It feels serious in a way that is nice. It's not serious in a mean or an edgy way. It's serious in a way we are taking this. We're not trying to be something that's I don't know, there's not stupid Marvel jokes in it. That's at least not to me. Maybe there are a couple, but I didn't notice any. It felt very much the humor was in line with what we saw in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's what I think I'm getting from other reviews of the show who maybe are lukewarm on the storytelling or not totally attached to the characters yet. I find myself attached to the characters, but everyone seems to be saying the world feels like Tolkien, it feels like Lord of the Rings, and that's really a good sign,
I think so too. I think that when you translate something, like I stated earlier, when you translate something from an adaptation that's already established, then it's hardly going to be exactly the same. And I think expectation of that to be the same is kind of not the point, I think not everything that works in a book is going to work on a movie. Not everything that works on a movie is not going to work in a show, because these are all different formats. So with that being said, I did see some reviews about just, and you talked to me about some criticism after the show premiered about just the diversity of it. I think that's kind of ridiculous, a person's diversity doesn't negate from their character. So that's all I'll say on that.
And people who are complaining that, well, Tolkien's world envisioned that this, race looked like this and this race looked like this, and now it's like, well, it's hard for me to... If you're so focused on the color of people's skin while you're watching the show, you have bigger fucking problems, okay? If you're judging art from the standpoint of if there's diversity in it, it sucks. Like, grow up, get a fucking life.
I think if you're judging a person's color and stating that will negate from the character, I think you need to look deeper inside.
Yes.
So should we rate it before we move on to the spoiler section?
Yes.
Okay. So I rate it pretty high, actually, 9 out of 10.
All right.
What about you?
Again, it's so hard to say, this early on in the show.
Well, we're obviously just doing first 2 episodes, so.
From what I've seen, I'd say an 8 out of 10. And the criticisms are maybe come down to a couple of hackneyed moments, maybe. We have to see how it'll play out.
Well, let's get into those
moments.
Spoilers.
Yeah, let's
so
talk
why don't
spoilers.
you start about those moments that you have criticism about?
I'm really intrigued in the relationship between Elrond and the Dwarf Prince. I thought that was really a nice moment and good world building. Galadriel is a character I'm really interested in because of how obsessed she is. I like characters who are really driven and obsessive about something, even if it goes against what's best for them. I think that's an interesting thing. And I thought the scene where she's about to be transcend and pass through into the Golden Realm or whatever it's called, and she jumps off the ship.
Yeah.
A little dumb, to like wait until that moment to leave, but I thought that was interesting. What I'm less excited about is the whole her being lost at sea and finding those other people. I thought that was a bit, I need to wait to see where it goes because it felt like, okay, whatever. Like, I don't know why this is here. I didn't love the intro of the show with like the kids playing around. I thought that was really just kind of dull, and it looked like it just didn't look that great, and was kind of like a long-winded intro to the show. Once it got into like the backstory stuff, where it's like the intro of Lord of the Rings explaining like this is what happened over all these years and how they fought Morgoth and all that, I thought that was fantastic. The effects, the battle scenes, the orcs look fantastic. The practical effects and the CGI looks stunning and beautiful. And throughout most of these episodes, I just kept looking at the shots and going, my God, that's gorgeous. Like the production design, the costumes, it looks lived in, but also pristine. You could feel the budget in every shot, and I think that's good. If you're going to be putting this much money into a show, I want to see every cent of it on screen, and I think that they're doing that so far.
I really liked Galadriel's character. I like that how she remembers what her brother said to her when she knew in her heart that the path like to peace wasn't at the right moment for her, and it was kind of, they were overlooking a lot of things. And I really liked that she really had to battle within her gut and her duty. And I also liked when she was swimming for a long time, and then she met a bunch of people, and then they were criticizing her for being, they're humans, and they were criticizing her for being elf. Most of them died. One person didn't. And that person, they both have their own biases about each other. And then I like how they ended up becoming friends. He ended up saving her when she drowned. It really showed that challenging those beliefs, which I felt like is true to the original lore. I also really liked how Arendir, the elf soldier, I believe that's how you say his name, he is in love with a human. And I like how there is biases there as well, with his other elf, like commander, saying, oh, I'm glad that you're not going to be around human anymore, when they were almost going to leave. Also, the humans not trusting him, and yet they find solace and love within each other. And I really love that, because in Lord of the Rings, I think there were a little different, like a few of those instances. Also, one thing I loved is, I believe, okay, so we don't know the character in the show. I can look it up on IMDb, but since he's not speaking, I believe it's an angel, some form of wizard, if not Gandalf and someone else.
Yeah, I don't know the lore enough. I believe the name in the credits they use is the Stranger. I think he might be Gandalf, but that might sound incredibly dumb or ignorant from someone who's who knows the lore and knows where Gandalf comes from. I just don't know enough about the lore. So I like the slow burn, but I am also ready for things to pick up a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to see stuff happen, but I'm glad that I'm into these characters enough to feel like I care about them.
What's next.
Yeah, I care about them, and I want to know what lies ahead for them. So really excited. Also, another note, the score is fantastic. I love the sweeping, grand musical score. It feels really fitting for the tone. I really love it. It feels weird for me because I wasn't expecting to just kind of fall for this show so quickly, because I was very cynical about it, but it just really picked me up and made me very happy, and I kind of got lost in it when I watched it, and that's what I really want from a fantasy show.
I think that's when it did its job well, is when you can actually get lost and forget time. And I definitely felt myself doing that as well, where I felt really invested in the character, and I felt like I was drawn in and almost pulled into this different realm, and I was just watching on the top of a hill or something like that. So
moral of the story, Jeff Bezos does it again. He's never done anything wrong. This is all because of Jeff Bezos, who is a wonderful guy. Fuck Jeff Bezos. But the show happens to be good, despite, his evil. So
we shall see. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this video, and we can't wait to hear what you guys thought. So please comment that below, and then we'll see you guys later.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Bye.